Hi, welcome to Founder of the Day. My name is Jason, and today we're doing something a little different. I thought it would be nice to come outside and sit in the sun. So if a car drives by every once in a while, forgive me. We're out pumpkin picking, and it's just one of the most beautiful autumn days we've had in a while, so I thought I'd take advantage of it. And I thought the best thing to do would be talk about Thomas Jefferson and John Adams. Uh, So before I get started, I do want to say I am going to try something different tomorrow. I am going to live stream on YouTube, which means you will have the opportunity to ask me questions. I assure you I will be inside and it won't be so loud. You can ask me questions directly live and I'll respond to them, and we'll see. It'll be a lot of fun. I'm sure there's only 7 to 20 people actually watching this video right now because this is still a young page, and I do want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart. I appreciate you giving me an opportunity. And one of the reasons I want to do a live stream is that it'll give you an opportunity to tell me exactly what you want to know. You can literally ask me about the founders or myself, about the American Revolution, anything you think I might be able to give you some information on. So that's tomorrow. It's October 12th, 2019. That's how I'll be celebrating my 5-year wedding anniversary. So let's talk about John Adams. I do want to thank Bill Daly, who left me a comment right when I started, when I made a video about the most important founding father. And I discussed, I like to call them the big six, are Washington, Franklin, Hamilton, Adams, Jefferson, and Madison. They are the most, in my opinion, the most important 6 founders. They are indispensable. And if you watch that video, I'll put a link in the description. I believe it's Washington. Number 2 is Franklin. Again, watch that video if you want to get into that. But Bill Daly commented and said that I actually swayed him to put Franklin over Adams, which is excellent. Thank you, Bill. It's one of the reasons I started this site, was to hopefully influence people's opinion a little bit, not to change their minds, but to, add information. So I do now. For me, 3 and 4 most important founders are John Adams and Thomas Jefferson. And we can argue about why Hamilton and Madison are not on that list at another point. But it's really hard to put one over the other. Jefferson and Adams are in this unique situation where they are more or less the same people. Sorry, we got a loud truck coming through. That's what I get for trying something outside. They're in this unique situation where they're in almost exactly the same spot. They meet in 1775. Adams is about 40, and Jefferson, I believe, is 32. When Jefferson replaces Washington at the Second Continental Congress, they both work on and then sign the Declaration of Independence. They, of course, although Jefferson does become a governor and Adams does not, they both end up in Europe for an extended period of time, where they both miss the Constitutional Convention. They both come back to America about the same time. One becomes vice president and one becomes secretary of state. So they're immediately thrown into these executive positions. Vice president is kind of legislative. It's president of the Senate. But they're both thrown into these positions where they both read the Constitution for the first time in a foreign land, and they both come back to help start the nation. It's quite an interesting predicament. And of course, after Washington leaves, you have Adams as the second president, and Jefferson as the second vice president, and then very quickly, Jefferson becomes the president after that. Famously, these two men were close friends until the Adams presidency, where Jefferson as vice president doesn't really back him up for both political and, let's be honest, selfish reasons. I'm a huge Jefferson fan, but truth hurts. And then after Jefferson's president, of course, they famously get back together, and the Adams-Jefferson letters, it's a very thick book full of their correspondence, 40, 50 years of correspondence, but in my opinion, it is one of the most important books you can read. I will leave a link to the description for that too. Every American should have it in their house, because as retired presidents and retired revolutionaries, these two men, they review what happened. They basically write a summary, but instead of sitting down and writing a book, they write to each other, and they argue and discuss what happened. And it's an amazingly unique perspective on the revolution by, in my opinion, the third and fourth most important founders. Um, Again, it's written in old-timey language because that's how they spoke and wrote to each other. But I highly recommend it. Now, as to who's the third most important and who's the fourth most important, it's near impossible to decipher because even for the first half of their careers, they were in almost the same spot and agreed on almost everything. And for their second half of their careers, they disagreed on almost everything, but they were still in the same place at the same time, having the same conversation, literally the same conversations with each other. And it is almost impossible to decide. Now, in my opinion, I would put Jefferson second. And the reason is this. When Adams succeeds Washington as president, largely because he thought Washington's character was what was important. And while Adams was a very different person than George Washington, he attempted to continue to have the same. He attempted to be disinterested and objective and to represent every American as opposed to just the Federalists that supported him. Unfortunately, his attempt to be disinterested, he kept on a lot of Washington's cabinet, and many of those people were Hamilton lackeys, for lack of a better word, and specifically Timothy Pickering and James McHenry, who are founders in their own right, and they were trying to do what they thought was best for the country. I do not mean them any ill will, but they were doing some shady things with a group called the Essex Junto, which is based out of Massachusetts, which was a segment of the Federalist Party. And they were able to do things like convince Adams to sign the Alien and Sedition Acts, which was, historically, does not look great. And furthermore, Adams did have a great effect building the government. I don't mean to limit him, but the long-term effects of Adams, he was the first president to be elected out of office. It's not something we throw around in his face too often, but wasn't the 2 terms that Washington got before him, then Jefferson, Madison, and Monroe would get afterwards. His son, John Quincy, of course, was the second president elected out of office. And again, I love the Adams family. I mean them no disrespect. But if you look at, conversely, Thomas Jefferson, he would become president, and Jeffersonian democracy, in many historical grade school textbooks, is the second era of American history. Personally, I tend to include that in the American Revolution, but I would say because Jefferson, not only did Jefferson's plans for the government, although it was limited by what Hamilton had already put in as treasurer, and trust me, Jefferson made mistakes as president, most notably the Embargo Act, but first of all, what he did as president, people liked, because 8 years later Madison got elected on basically the same ticket, and 8 years later Monroe got elected on basically the same ticket. And then you throw in the Louisiana Purchase, of course, extending the country, which may have been unconstitutional. We weren't sure, but historically that has come off a lot better than, like I said, the Alien and Sedition Acts, for example. On top of that, for me, what I love most about the American founding is the Declaration of Independence itself. The first 3 paragraphs of that text is essentially what it means to be human and live in a society. It is just the most eloquent and well captured phrase of humanity from my perspective that has ever been written. And that's what I love so much about it. So yes, that does make me a little itsy bitsy biased for Jefferson, but I think if you look at it objectively, Jefferson just had that little edge on Adams. Now again, to be fair, I've left a lot out about Adams, but to be also fair, I've left a lot out about Jefferson. That is my perspective. I know Mr. Daly is going to disagree with me on this, but I'd like to hear your comments. So leave me a comment in the bottom. Tell me which of the two you think is more important or less important. I would love to hear it. Let me know if you like this more candid outdoor style. I assure you, during these harsh New York winters, I will not be out here. But for the rest of the year, we can give it a shot if you like. And again, tomorrow at 5 o'clock, October 12th, I'm going to live stream. So please sign on. Make sure you hit like. I think there's a mouse behind me. Make sure you hit like and subscribe. And if you hit the notification button, when I do the live stream, it will remind you so you can pop on. It'll also let you know whenever I put up a new video, which I've been doing Monday through Friday at this point. We'll probably stick with that for a while, see how it goes. Hopefully you like it. And again, just thank you for watching. Okay, bye.